dad has been mentally ill for 9 years, a little over 9 years. When my mom's dad passed, so my grandpa, he started becoming addicted to wine, actually called a Pink Moscato. And I remember sitting at the dinner table the night that my grandpa was buried, and my dad, and I thought it was really weird that he loved alcohol that much, considering I was 10 years old and I thought alcohol was so bad, and I never seen my parents drink it before. So after that, he kept buying bottles, and each bottle is like $15. He'd buy 1 or 2 bottles a week starting out, and it increased over time. When I was in junior high, I had volleyball games, and he would come to my volleyball games very weird, and I didn't know why he was acting weird, and I hadn't noticed yet that he was drunk. I didn't know what the symptoms were, why he was acting so weird, why he was off balance when he was walking. So it was kind of embarrassing because I didn't know what was happening. So, and I always knew when he was drunk because he would scream at my mom, and he would throw punches at my mom, but not intentionally. It wasn't him that was trying to throw the punches, it was the alcohol controlling him. So I knew that it wasn't my dad, and it was never my dad when he had the alcohol in him. He would drive with the alcohol, he'd drink while he was driving to work all day, every day. Constant, nonstop. I started to notice that there would be coolers in the back of his car, and I just thought they were from trips that we took, and he just never took them out. And one day I opened it and there was wine bottles in it, and then I realized, wow, he's drinking, like that's not him. But it just kept going and going. It got to the point where he would drink. We would leave for vacation, go up to my lake house in Michigan, 8-hour drive. He would drink that morning when he was packing the car, and by the time I got up and by the time my mom got up, he would be completely drunk. And he'd be driving us until it wore off to the lake, and my mom and I were so scared because he would swerve, and we didn't know what to do. We couldn't tell anyone. Like, you don't want to tell anyone that your dad is an addict, that he's addicted to alcohol. Fast forward a few years later, he lost his job. He worked at the Palace Theater downtown. He was the head stagehand that works all the lights and the sound, and I didn't really know why he got fired. They just told me, oh, he is getting moved to a different job. So they brought all of his belongings to my house that I'm not currently at, and it just felt so weird because he had different hours. They weren't like normal work hours, and he wouldn't take me to school anymore because he was drunk all the time. He always took me to school. It just felt weird because he wasn't really my dad at the time because the alcohol was just taking over. So got so embarrassing that I didn't want him to come to any of my volleyball games, volleyball tournaments, or because he would either show up drunk and embarrass me, or he'd show up late halfway through the game because he was drinking before then. That started, and then he would always go to the store. He'd go to Kroger every day. He'd ask if we wanted anything, and we're like, you just went yesterday. he went to the store to buy wine every single day. Mind you, wine is $15 a bottle. It's not cheap. So every time he bought wine, he wouldn't pay our bills. The electric would turn off all the time. Our phone bills would turn off all the time. And we were behind on mortgage on our house. So when we were behind on mortgage, this was end of freshman year into sophomore year. He wouldn't tell my mom because he was embarrassed. He always thought, oh, I can take care of the problem on my own. We won't lose our house. We'll be okay. We'll be fine. I'll just call them and I'll say I'll pay it late with a late fee every time, and he wouldn't pay it. It finally got to the point where we got an eviction notice. 3 months before he told us. And it also got to the point where my dad's car got towed away because he wasn't paying his car payments because he was buying wine. He didn't pay for any of my schooling. He didn't pay for any of that. Next thing you know, the sheriff showed up on our front porch. I was really scared. We never got in trouble with the sheriff, with the police, or anything until they came up on my front porch and told me and my parents, get out of the house. Like, you have to leave because you're not paying your bills. I didn't really know what an eviction was, but then I started to realize, like, oh my gosh, we're getting kicked out of this house. Where are we gonna live? So we literally gathered all our friends, all our family, and we moved out of our house in literally a week maybe. But a little bit before that, my dad, he went to our lake house, which is 8 hours away, and he would not come home. He wouldn't come home. He refused to come home. He had the dog with him, and he refused to come home to bring the dog home. He was mentally so exhausted and tired to the point where he just wanted to leave all his problems in Ohio and stay in Michigan forever. And we threatened him, if you're not going to come home, like, don't ever speak to us again. So he finally came home after like three weeks being up there. And we're like, you got to get your butt into shape because we can't do this alone. So we called my grandma and we're like, this stuff is happening. Like, we have nowhere to live. We just got kicked out of our house. Like, and we have all this crap that is in our old house that we have no clue where to put. So she took all of my college tuition that she saved up, my whole life. It was like $15,000, and she gave it to my parents to put towards this house, this townhome that we're living in right now. And I just remember feeling so pissed and so mad at my not my mom, but my dad, for letting it get that far. Because now I was thinking, I can't go to college. We can't pay for college because we can barely afford a house. We can't even afford a car. So all this is going through my head. And then we moved into this place. My dad negotiated because we have no credit. Because he keeps stealing and maxing out credit cards. He uses bad checks. Still use bad checks now. So financially, there was no money. Starting junior, senior year, he wouldn't come to any of my volleyball games. He really didn't want to. He was so depressed that he again would come drunk if he came to a volleyball game. He would also come drunk to church all the time. Sunday service, I wouldn't want to drive with him because he might kill me, so I either went with my mom or had someone drive me, and he'd be by himself driving, and we didn't know if he got to church half the time because he wouldn't tell us he was there, or he was 30 minutes late walking into church. And I just remember feeling so angry every single time he'd show up halfway through the sermon and he didn't get to learn anything about Jesus because he was too busy putting toxins into his body. And if he would have been there learning about Jesus more, maybe he would have changed because something in the sermon would have hit him, but it never did. And that's when he lost his job. He lost his actual job. He had a job working around different theaters, and when he wasn't working with the different theaters, he was doing payroll for guys in the theaters. Like, he was occupied with all of that stuff. I went to school last year at Heidelberg University, and I felt a sense of relief. I felt a sense of relief knowing that I was getting out of the house and I didn't have to deal with him anymore. I was less stressed, so I could work on school and volleyball. But I still felt so bad that I was leaving my mom in this situation because she was so stressed all the time. And I was afraid that he was gonna hurt her. So that's when I decided I finished out my freshman year at Heidelberg, and that's when I decided to quit volleyball there and come back home to help my mom deal with this situation, to help her figure out a solution to the problem. And nothing really was solved. During the spring semester of my freshman year, we found out that he was getting so sick that he might die. And we're like, Dad, you might die, right? And he's like, yeah, I'll just take care of it. It's okay, I'll get better, I'll stop drinking. And we found out that December that my sister was having a baby. And my sister was like, Dad, you better stop because you're gonna have a grandchild in your life. He's like, yeah, I'll stop. That never happened. He didn't stop. It just kept getting worse. His depression got higher and higher. So fast forward to August 2019. I started school at Columbus State, and I started playing volleyball there because I love volleyball, and it was kind of like getting out of this situation that I was in at home, and I didn't want to stay at home all the time because he was so depressed. All summer, he would sit in his chair in the living room and watch TV, and he wouldn't work. He got fired from every single job because they found out that he was a drunk, and he got sick. So no one wanted to hire someone that was weak and was not mentally stable. So he would come to my volleyball games again at Columbus State this year, drunk. On one of the most important nights and one of the most important teams that we played, he didn't come because he was sick. And that's when I found out that he was drunk. After he takes all these medications, it messes with him because he's drunk, and alcohol and medications are not supposed to mix. He told me one day when I had a game an away game in Chillicothe that he was going to come to my game. He tried to come to my game. He drove his car. His car had over 300,000 miles on it because we couldn't afford a new car. He drove his car, and about halfway there to the game, he started smelling smoke, and he pulled over on the side of the road. And I didn't know this until my game was over. I had no clue what happened. I knew he was coming to my game, but he never showed up, so that's why I was worried all throughout my whole game, because I kept looking up in the bleachers and he wasn't there. So my sister called me and she said, Dad's car blew up. I just want to let you know that's why he wasn't at your game tonight. And that hit so hard because I had a gut feeling that something bad happened to him, and it just wasn't good. She sent me the pictures, and I'll insert them here. So this all kept going on up until this past week. Maybe he would walk, or we would drive him to the store, and he would just buy alcohol. So I was at work Tuesday. I was at school, volleyball, and work on Tuesday. And my mom FaceTimed me, and she was like, your dad is acting really weird. He's not making sense, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to call 911. So I saw him, and he went to the hospital that morning because he got a procedure done every like month or so to get liquids pumped out of his stomach because his liver was not working correctly because he damaged it with all the alcohol. So she drove him back home, and he couldn't get out of the car. He was acting really weird. He didn't know how to unbuckle his seatbelt. He couldn't stand up, so my mom had to physically help him up. And then that's when she FaceTimed me, and she's like, talk to your dad. And he was trying to turn the TV on with the volume control on the remote. And that's when I was like shit is real. Like, we need to call 911. So I told my mom to call 911. She called them. They came to our house. This is still on Tuesday night. They came to our house, and they checked on him, checked his blood, checked all the vitals. They said, that all seems good. If anything changes, call 911 and go to the ER. Everything got worse. She called me. She's like, it's getting worse. I don't know what to do. So I was like, call 911, go to the ER, do something. So they went to the ER right across from my work. So when I got off work at 10 o'clock, I went right over there. He was already out of it. He couldn't talk. He was nonverbal. His eyes could not focus on anything. They were rolling in the back of his head. And the nurses came in. They said his colon is twisted in his stomach. That's why he hasn't been hungry. That's why the blood circulating through his brain isn't getting to his brain. That's why he can't talk. All the toxins from the alcohol and his colon and liver were just flowing through his brain. That's why he couldn't speak or do anything. And that's when we were all like, this is really happening, but he could get better. He could get better. So they transferred him to Grant Hospital at 2:30 in the morning, early Wednesday morning, and he was sedated. Last thing I talked to him about was the dentist and how I was so scared, and he said, it's okay, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. He said, I love you. That's the last thing he said to me, and I walked out the door. I didn't get to say a single word or anything because he couldn't verbally talk to me. I spent all day on Wednesday until I had to go to volleyball practice at the hospital by myself, waiting for any results to happen while my mom was coming from work. Nothing changed, so I went to volleyball, and they said they were gonna untwist his colon. So they untwisted his colon once and took out all the gases in his stomach because his stomach looked like a balloon and his stomach was completely flat. When my mom got there, that's what it looked like, was flat on Wednesday night. And I was like, can I go home after practice? Like, I can get some sleep and then come in tomorrow. My mom was like, yeah, that's fine. I didn't know how serious it was. I don't think my mom or sister knew how serious it was until Thursday. I went to class. I got out at 12:20. My mom called me when I was getting in my car to go to the hospital. She said, we need you here quick. Dad's colon flipped and twisted back around, and that is not a good sign. That isn't supposed to happen. That's what the doctor said. So I rushed to the hospital. The doctor said, we either need to have a surgery, we need to make a decision next hour. We need to have a surgery or not. If we have a surgery, there's only a 20% chance that he will make it out alive. His bleeding is so bad because of all the alcohol that has messed up his body that he might bleed out on the table. And it took a long time to take in what they were saying, and it was very emotional. That's my dad. So we all talked it over, me and my sister, my mom and my uncle talked it over, and we decided to not do the surgery. Just make him comfortable and let his body take the course it wants to. The doctor said it's not going to get any better, honestly. If you do the surgery and if he pulls through, the recovery will still be so long. And we talked about it, and if we let him get through the surgery, he wouldn't even want to recover. His recovery time would be so long and painful for him that we knew mentally throughout this whole process since I was 10 that he was not in the right state of mind. He was so depressed. He talked about killing himself a few times to my mom. He always said, oh, I'm just gonna go kill myself. So we decided to take out all the tubes. My mom signed the DNR. Today, Friday, I don't know when I'll be posting this. Friday, November 8th at 2:30 p.m. we watched him take his last breaths. If anyone is going through this, please reach out to anyone. Reach out to me, because I know what you guys are going through. It's so hard to tell other people because you want to keep it a secret. We kept it a secret for 9 years until some people found out. 9 years. I have been holding all of this in, and I can finally talk about it because I'm comfortable talking about it, and it needs to be more aware. That's why when I go to parties, if I go to parties, I don't drink because I don't want to be seen as an alcoholic. I don't want to be seen drunk because I know what my dad went through, and I don't want to go through that. It just scares me. So if you need help, I'm here. Anyone's here. Please, just call for help. Don't wait. And please, if they say they don't want help, get them help anyways. Because my dad didn't want help, got sick. Within 2 or 3 days, we lost him. So, call for help, please.